When George Bush picked Dick Cheney as his deputy, the joke was that the president was only a heartbeat away from the vice presidency. Dick Cheney gave lie to the old assertion that his job was worth little more than a pitcher of warm spit, as one of its incumbents once put it. Cheney spoke his mind and made his influence felt. But more than 6 months out of power, new information is now coming to light, how Cheney may have fallen out of favor with Bush and vice versa. So, just what was the power dynamic between these two, and how did it change? Questions which I posed to Washington Post national reporter Barton Gellman, author of Angler, the Cheney Vice Presidency. Barton, thanks for joining us. So Dick Cheney is forever full of surprises.
He is. You know, it's no surprise that he disagreed with some of Bush's decisions, especially in the second term. It's more of a surprise he's prepared to talk about it, since he's spent most of his career contemptuous of people who write memoirs with inside accounts of deliberations that should have been private. What's even more surprising is the personal tone that's come into it. Dick Cheney is letting it be known quietly amongst his confidants that he thinks that George Bush not only sort of backed down, but did so for the wrong reasons, that he became he lost his resolve in the face of public criticism, which is a moral failing in Dick Cheney's mind.
It's always difficult to read that mind. What do you think is motivating him at the moment, and why this particular timing?
There's so much speculation about Cheney's motives that it can obscure the really simple fact that he truly does believe that America is in terrible danger, that he understands better than other people do how to address that danger, that he thinks we're on the wrong course now, and that he's uniquely qualified to speak up. When he was in power, he could act directly. He had quite a bit of authority. Now that he's out, the only thing he's got is his ability to persuade.
I guess if you're a staunch Cheney supporter or a kind of Bush first-term supporter, then this is bad news for the former president. But for many other people, this might be very good news for George Bush, right? Because it puts a bit of distance between him and the man that one columnist described as Vice.
The early reviews from the Bush camp are rather pleased that Cheney is distancing himself, because it's a further demonstration that George Bush, after all, really was the decider. That when he wanted to be, and when he knew what the decision was on the table, he was fully capable of saying no to Cheney, and he did so with increasing frequency in the second term.
How much do you think Dick Cheney is speaking for the bedrock of the Republican Party, and how relevant do you think his voice will be as that party tries to stitch itself together again?
You know, it's completely natural to ask sort of what is Cheney's impact on the Republicans, whether he's trying to do brand management, how he sees himself as a spokesman when he's so unpopular in America, why he's departing from the tradition of sort of heading off in silence after you've served your term. Fundamentally, he doesn't care. He cares about the policy itself. He's not looking for this sort of Olympian detachment of a former statesman. But in particular, there are not an enormous number of Republicans who welcome him as standard bearer, not because they all disagree. Some of them agree strongly with him, but they think they need new faces, and they know that he is not the most sort of popular face that can be put on a party that is in opposition now.
And I guess a politician, even an ex-politician who doesn't care, is that rarest of things. Barton Gellman, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
They were pictures which stunned the world, became icons of abuse, and inflicted widespread damage to the U.S. military mission in Iraq and its image around the world. It has been 5 years since the images of prisoners being mistreated at Abu Ghraib were revealed, and still their fallout is being felt. At the center of the scandal was Army reservist Lynndie England, who was later convicted of conspiracy and mistreating detainees. Now England is out with a new book that she hopes will explain her role in the events that unfolded on the night shift at Abu Ghraib. The BBC's Hilary Anderson recently went to West Virginia to hear her side of the story.
Fort Ashby, a small town in the hills of West Virginia, is poor and entirely unremarkable, but for one thing. One of the most notorious women in America lives here, Lynndie England.
America sees me as this, like, villain, this monster, because I was in a photograph for, like, a split second at a time.
Her hair is graying at just 26 years old. No wonder. She's already managed to help define a war and shame a superpower. She hates going out in public at all now, but agreed to meet us in this local bar.
Do you get recognized a lot when you go out in public?
Yep. Yeah, people look at me. I mean, I'm used to it by now. After, what, 5 years or something, people notice me, they look, they whisper.
Have you had any threats?
Not recently. Yeah, I mean, when all this started, yeah. They sent it home here to my family. And it was like they told my mom that she ought to just shoot herself for raising someone like me.
Abu Ghraib is a place saturated with death and torture. Under Saddam Hussein, the gallows here worked by day and night. It was into this graveyard of thousands of souls that Lynndie England came in 2003, a fresh-faced 20-year-old. She says American soldiers were already abusing the detainees when she got there.
We were just like, what the hell's going on? You know, we never seen this type of stuff before. We did question it, and what we got in return was, yeah, this needs to be done. Yeah, you just do whatever they say.
Lynndie was not meant to be in the so-called detainee hard site. Her job was administrative, but she'd go there during the night shifts to see her boyfriend, Corporal Charles Grainer.
On some level, whatever you say, you are participating in this event because
Right.
you're standing there in a photograph where this is happening.
Right.
Why did you do that?
Because, like I said, Grainer pulled the, if you love me, you'll do this, and I guess on some level I didn't want to disappoint him just because then he'll leave me and I'll feel alone in this war zone.
Grainer, who has a history of abuse, appeared to terrify the detainees. He's often seen as a ringleader of the cruelty and assault.
Do you accept any responsibility for this yourself?
Yeah, because I was dumb enough to be there.
This photo of you holding Gus, I think was your nickname
Yeah,
for him, on
right.
this leash. What is your view, your personal view, about stripping people naked and degrading them? Do you think that that's an acceptable thing to do to, as you put it, soften up detainees? Do you think that's okay?
Compared to what they would do to us, that's like nothing compared. Because if you think about it, I mean, at the same time, they were cutting our guys' heads off and burning their bodies and dragging them through the streets of Baghdad and hanging them off bridges. And this, you know, this happens at colleges and dorm rooms and or whatever here in the U.S. all the time. Or even, maybe not this picture, but similar humiliation tactics and physical exertion. You know, everybody goes through that type of stuff in boot camp in the military.
These were, you know, people who were caught in bar brawls. They were regular prisoners, most of them. So I ask you again, do you think it's okay to strip people naked and to degrade them?
For softening up tactics, if it helps get whatever information they might have, sure.
The court didn't see it that way. Lynndie was sentenced to 3 years in jail. She got out after serving half of that. Grainer is still serving a 10-year sentence. In spite of fresh assertions that the former Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld, was responsible for abuses across American military bases, no one more senior has yet been charged. A lot of people want to know is what you're really like.
Well, I'm a pretty nice, generous person if you talk to anybody. I mean, if you needed the shirt off my back, I'd give it to you.
Now she's on antidepressants, and she says no one will employ her. What she lives for is Carter, her 5-year-old son. The boy's father is Grainer. Lynndie had to leave her child with her mother while she was in jail. His childhood innocence won't last long, because soon he'll start asking questions.
I have all the newspapers and stuff. My mom said we could do a scrapbook, but really don't know.
Do you have any shame for your role in this? Or not?
Oh yeah, because I'm like the black mark, the black sheep of the army.
You're ashamed of the fact that you made the military look bad, but you're not ashamed of what was actually going on there? Is that what you're saying?
It's what we were supposed to be doing. We did what we were told to do. I don't feel bad about that.
Hilary Anderson there in her conversation with Lynndie England.